Banned by the Football Association, now he's unstoppable. Please subscribe. Episode 1. Didn't you say that the appearance fee is 2,000, and the ball is 1,000? I scored 5 goals for a total of 7,000. Why only 3,000? In the height of summer in August, the sun is blazing. Zhejiang City, Huanglong Sports Center football field. Chu Xuan's face was like frost, and there was a faint suppression of flames in his eyes. With a height of 1.83 meters, he is sweating at the moment. The old jersey washed to the white was casually draped over the shoulders, revealing a lean dark upper body and solid abs. This physique still looks quite imposing. Therefore, in the face of his anger, the bald middle-aged man opposite Chu Xuan could only smile bitterly. "Xiao Chu, I'm just a middle puller, and it's useless to lose your temper with me," that's what the Gold Lord said. The bald middle-aged man spread his hands. "Who let you do it?" They can't help but claim compensation for medical expenses. Before Chu Xuan could respond, the bald middle-aged man said again, "You didn't sign a contract before, so you can only let the other party quote." This sentence directly blocked Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan looked at the football field under his feet that looked like a vegetable field, and exhaled deeply. "Okay, bring 3,000 yuan. "Oh." The bald middle-aged man handed an envelope to Chu Xuan, and then couldn't help but persuade. "Xiao Chu, I think you better find a class. It's not a thing to always play like this." "Thanks, but it's my business." Chu Xuan's eyes were very firm, and he could vaguely see the young man with infinite scenery a few years ago. "Hey." The bald middle-aged man stopped talking, then shook his head, turned away with his back hand. Chu Xuan picked up the envelope, counted the banknotes inside, and carefully stuffed them into his sports backpack. He was about to leave, but he couldn't help but look at the green field behind him. At the moment, the entire stadium was empty, but he seemed to be able to hear the shouts of the whole stadium and see tens of thousands of Dragon Kingdom fans wearing red jerseys. At that time, Chu Xuan was also wearing a red battle robe. He stood in the middle of the stadium with a winning smile. Except everyone's applause and cheers. Unfortunately, Chu Xuan blinked again, and the stadium became empty again, as silent as stagnant water. In Baidu's National Football Bar, such a post appeared, and it was quickly put on top by the bar owner. Chu Xuan, the former hope star of the Dragon Country, is now in the Wild Stadium and has a fist and foot conflict with people. Everyone knows Chu Xuan, the most promising talented striker in the national youth team. At the age of 14, he entered the first team of Xinjiang Jinda Club in the Chinese Super League and broke the team record. At the age of 16, he became the top scorer of the season in the Chinese Super League, scoring 23 goals. In the same year, he was also selected for the national youth team and became a national player. At the 2005 World Youth Championships, Chu Xuan led the national youth team to defeat Turkey, Ukraine and Panama to qualify from the group. The most amazing thing is that he scored the final goal in the January 8 final to help the national youth team beat the German team 2-1. It is a pity that Chu Xuan was tackled by his opponent in the last stoppage time. The national youth team lost 0-4 to the Brazilian youth team, stopping at the 1/4 final. This is already the best record of the national team. The whole world has noticed our national youth team. At that time, I believe everyone believed that the future of the national football team must be full of hope. But now what? It's a joke. Everyone has seen the performance of the national Olympic team in the Capital Olympic Games, right? It's a shame to lose the ball. What is Tan Wangsong doing? Show the world traditional martial arts? Many people are asking, why did Chu Xuan not enter the national Olympic Games later, or even enter the national team? Xie Dulan's original statement was that Chu Xuan's condition declined after being injured and did not meet the requirements of the national Olympic and national teams. Ba Mi. Who broke the Chinese Super League record with 31 goals in the 2007 season? Our young homegrown goalscorer scored 10 more goals than the foreign supporters. Why didn't Xie Dulan recruit Chu Xuan? Are you blind? Perhaps many people still can't figure this out. But I'm telling you today why the real reason. Do you think the strength of the national football team? Humph, naive. The national football team pays attention to people's feelings. I won't say much else, let's understand it for yourself. Later, Chu Xuan expressed his dream of playing for the country in the media, and tactfully questioned the choice of the Football Association. At this time, he has been completely banned by the national team. Later, the Kinder team collapsed with unpaid wages. There was no team signing Chu Xuan again. Incredible. He also gradually faded out of the public sight. Until yesterday, I saw him on a field. It seems to be a match between two amateur teams sponsored by local businesses. There is no comment on what team it is. Die laughing. Originally, that team wanted to set off its own striker, and temporarily asked Chu Xuan to go over to support the scene, but did not plan to let him really play. As a result, both teams could not score a goal, and the striker also injured one. They had no choice but to send Chu Xuan on the field, and there were only 20 minutes left. Chu Xuan is still that star of hope. 5 goals alone in 20 minutes. Unfortunately, in the end, it was a little unpleasant, and his own forward ability was not good, and he complained that Chu Xuan did not pass the ball. He pushed and shoved Chu Xuan hard, and he didn't know what to say from too far away. Chu Xuan couldn't help but punch him down. What a beautiful fight. Anyway, in the end, they broke up unhappily, and the other party did not call the police, so they may want Chu Xuan to lose a little money privately. The hope of the national youth team at the beginning has fallen to this point, which is embarrassing. This post instantly detonated the post, and countless replies were scolding Xie Dulong and scolding Pig Shoes. More people were feeling sorry for Chu Xuan, recalling the light of hope that had passed away by the way. Unfortunately, now domestic football has entered darkness and has no future. Everyone was thinking that if Chu Xuan entered the national Olympic team at that time, he would enter the national team. Then go to the top 5 European leagues. Raise our country's prestige. Will everything get better? Probably only God knows. However, the person who recorded the post only sighed and did not notice Chu Xuan's eyes. How could his football dream be easily extinguished? Episode 2. With the 3,000 yuan earned in 20 minutes of appearance, Chu Xuan trotted all the way back to the rental house with his bag. Once inside, he looked up at the alarm clock on his desk. 16:30 minutes. He set off from the Yellow Dragon Stadium at exactly 16 o'clock, and the distance of 10 kilometers took a full 30 minutes. If the coaches of those track and field teams saw this scene, they would definitely widen their eyes and invite Chu Xuan to join. This is the strength of the world's top long-distance runners. That's right, Chu Xuan, who saves money and spends money, can't even bear the 2 yuan of the bus. It is even more impossible to fight. Long-distance running saves money and exercises, so why not? When he was in the national youth team, he became the world's most dazzling youth striker because of his perverted physical strength and lightning speed. Unfortunately, the injury at the World Youth Championships had a great impact. Torn cruciate ligament. Fans who watch the game often probably know that this injury is equivalent to a career death sentence. Michael Owen, Diesler, Kaká, Baggio, Piero. Countless world-class superstars have sunk or even fallen. Since then, Chu Xuan has completely lost the speed and explosiveness that he was proud of. After a year of recuperation, he was in a hurry to make a comeback, eager to prove himself. So gritting his teeth, he scored 31 Chinese Super League goals in the 2007 season, breaking the Chinese Super League record. He dreamed of returning to the national team, wearing the red flag and playing for the country. However, the reality is brutal. The national team gate that he had in mind completely shut him out. In the words of the national football team manager, Chu Xuan, you have lost speed now, and you don't have outstanding skills. The ability to pass long and short is also weak, and it is impossible to respond. The modern striker should be comprehensive. Know how to make balls. Know how to cover. You are not qualified for any of these? How to enter the National Olympic Games? Not to mention the national team. Seriously, I recommend you get a coaching certificate and transition early. Or find a class. In addition to good physical fitness, you are now playing football equivalent to ordinary people, and you don't have the ability to eat this bowl of rice, you know? The words of the Football Association manager are difficult to hear, and they seem to be justified, so that others cannot say fault. But Chu Xuan just wasn't convinced. As a striker, isn't it hard to score goals? I can score directly, so why should I pass it to someone else? What about making trouble? Unfortunately, he was banned forever, completely cutting off his dream of serving his country. Later, even the club went out of business. Coach Chen, who knew him, went to other teams as an assistant coach. It may be that the year of his comeback in a hurry overdrew Chu Xuan's potential. He tried out several clubs, none of which worked very well. In the absence of confrontation, it is said that we're to fight. But with a little confrontation, Chu Xuan seemed to have lost his shooting boots and couldn't find the feeling of shooting. In his skill pool, now there is only the physical strength to run and die. 19-year-old Chu Xuan, a teenager who loves football so much, a teenager who scores goals like numb. No balls kicked anymore. He only earns money playing field football occasionally, and usually works at a nearby bar. After all, he grew up in football school and devoted his life to football. Even if he found a class, no one wanted him. Chu Xuan, who was panting, couldn't care about the sweat all over his body, and weakly kept himself on the bed. Holding his head, staring at the ceiling quietly, he was a little at a loss as to where he was going. At this moment, a strange voice sounded in my head. Ding! The Dream Chase program has been activated. Forbidden Zone Fox Prosthetic Eye Module LV.max. Loaded successfully. Causal Law Shot Module LV.1. Loaded successfully. The rest of the modules failed to load. Insufficient dream points balance. What the hell? Chu Xuan jumped up directly from the bed with a carp. He sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the magical scene just now. This is Goldfinger? Chu Xuan has experienced great ups and downs, and has already cultivated a big heart. In addition, he has also read a lot of online articles, and he has a strong tolerance for bizarre things. So he tried to call deep inside. Really? There seems to be a transparent screen in front of you, and the words just now appear on it. I'm not dreaming. Chu Xuan endured his excitement and carefully studied his golden finger. Apart from the text that is displayed, there are only two places where text exists. One is the Dream Store, which unfortunately is gray text and cannot be interacted with. The other is Dream Points, 0. Good guy, since it's Goldfinger, can you have more beginner tutorials? After studying for half a day without results, Chu Xuan simply gave up the research. Anyway, it seems that this Goldfinger is related to football. Dream Quest project. Besides football, what other dreams can you chase? However, Chu Xuan is now unable to mix in the domestic football circle, and no professional club wants him at all. Don't talk about the Chinese Super League, there is no Chinese B. Do you want to go abroad to mix? It's even more unrealistic. China and B can't mix, how can those clubs in Europe who have eyes above the top want him? Amusing. Before he could figure it out, the phone in his pocket vibrated violently. Calling? Taking out his 600 Tianyu mobile phone, the caller number was a little strange. Wait, this is international calls? No way. Episode 3. Under normal circumstances, Chu Xuan hangs up directly when encountering international calls. International calls are most likely scammers. There are no relatives abroad at home either. Wait, the third uncle opened a Chinese restaurant abroad. Chu Xuan's father's generation is basically a culinary family. Grandpa was once the head chef of a state-run restaurant, and passed on his superb Sichuan cuisine skills to his 3 brothers. Chu Xuan's eldest uncle was not here, and he opened a fruit shop to do a small business. Chu Xuan and his father Chu Jianzhong basically inherited his grandfather's mantle and came to Shaojiang City to open his own Sichuan restaurant. As for his third uncle, his cooking skills are not as good as his father's. I went to Britain many years ago, and it is said that a Chinese restaurant was opened there, which was tepid. For more than 10 years, his impression of the third uncle has been very weak, and he will only pay homage on the phone when the new year is over. When Chu Xuan's club closed down and didn't play before, Chu Xuan's father seemed to have contacted the third uncle. I wanted him to contact the British side to see if there was a tryout. It's a pity that there is no follow-up later, and Chu Xuan himself has no hope at all. Could it be? Chu Xuan suddenly became excited. Is this arranged by Goldfinger? Is there a tryout? Chu Xuan no longer dared to hesitate and quickly picked up the phone. Hello? Chu Xuan, it's me. Third uncle. It's been okay lately. Chu Xuan was anxious, and he only wanted to know if there was an opportunity for trial training. But he was also not good to ask directly, so he could only dry pleasantries, waiting for the third uncle to bring it up himself. Fortunately, the third uncle Chu Jianya is not a grinding person. Very good. By the way, you know, I opened a restaurant here in Sheffield, England. I was busy before. But recently I plan to open a branch, but I can't open it myself, so I want to ask if you would like to help uncle? Huh? It's not a tryout. Chu Xuan's original expectations were instantly extinguished, and his whole person was also excited. His father opened a restaurant, and countless times wanted Chu Xuan to give up football and go back to running a restaurant. If you really want to do this, why go to a foreign country? Chu Xuan was still stunned, and the third uncle was still chanting on the phone. Your matter, the second brother has already told me. It's okay if you want to play, but you can't do nothing like you do now. I heard that you had a fight with your father, and they also wanted me to persuade you. If I want to say, you can simply come to England to relax, and by the way, help me do it for a while. When you figure it out, when you can return to China. What's more, there are stadiums everywhere here, and there are many amateur leagues. If you want to play football, isn't it much simpler than in China? That's right. Chu Xuan also realized that England's football culture is deeply rooted in every community. Even playing field ball over there is much better than here. The football environment from top to bottom in China is simply a pool of dry and smelly stagnant water. Although it is not the trial opportunity that Chu Xuan is looking forward to, if you play football over there, you can activate Goldfinger to some extent, right? Okay, third uncle, I'll go over. Chu Xuan, you just listen to the third uncle's advice, young man. Huh? You agreed? Yes. I want to go to England. Chu Xuan, on the other side of the phone, his eyes once again radiated the brilliance they once again. Half a month later, the Capital Olympics are in full swing. Through this window, the whole world is reacquainting itself with a rising power. The song Welcome to the Capital has also spread around the world. Super Dan of badminton won the gold medal in men's singles, and the women's table tennis team crushed and won the championship. Diving queen Guo Jingjing won gold again in the 3-meter springboard event, but it is a pity that Asian flyer Lu Xiong withdrew due to injury, which became a regret for everyone. On this day, no one knew that the former national youth genius had crossed the ocean. About to hibernate and soar in this strange land. London Heathrow International Airport. Chu Xuan pulled his suitcase and followed the crowd out of the airport a little blankly. The people picking up the airport outside were densely packed, holding all kinds of signs in their hands, and they were dazzling to see. He looked around, but he didn't see the 5 big and 3 thick strong men of the third uncle. Shouldn't he have come? Chu Xuan took out his mobile phone and flipped through the address book while walking out, ready to call the third uncle. As a result, he didn't take 2 steps, and the front was dark, and he seemed to be blocked by someone. Excuse me, please. Chu Xuan could speak few words of English, and he planned to let the other party move away. Unexpectedly, as soon as I raised my head, there was a tall girl standing in front of me. Simple t-shirt hot pants, highlighting the straight and slender white legs, youthful and beautiful. Her short hair is full of vitality, beautiful face, and a small tiger tooth is revealed when he laughs. Her dark eyes looked at herself carefully, sparkling. Where are the Oriental beauties? Where do you seem to have seen it? Chu Xuan felt a little puzzled about this sudden girl, and always had an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Are you? Chu Xuan tried to communicate with Chinese. Wow, Chu Xuan, you don't know me anymore. Sad. Suddenly, the girl's eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and she pouted pitifully, as if she was about to cry. Chu Xuan looked confused. Who am I? Where am I? Who is she again? Episode 4. London Heathrow Airport, surrounded by crowds and people. In the midst of a group of blonde white men, 2 Eastern faces stood opposite each other. Chu Xuan couldn't remember whether he was dead or alive. Who was this beautiful girl who blocked his way? Why did she know herself? Could it be that the third uncle sent it? Wait a minute. Looking at her small mouth that can hang soy sauce bottles, memories of the past continue to emerge. Remember when I was a child, that tomboy with short hair pretended to cry like this. Every time she pretended to cry, her parents taught herself a hard lesson. As a result, this little buddyan hid next to him and snickered, looking like a conspiracy had succeeded. Chu Xuan came back to his senses, looked at the girl in front of him again, and couldn't help but smile. It's so good, that tomboy has grown up, and unconsciously, he is so watery. Chu Xuan, don't pretend. Are you really crying? Fake crying? I don't know. Humph. The lively girl, Chu Xuan, was defeated, and immediately put away her bitter face, pouted and crossed her waist, a little unconvinced. As a result, the next second, she couldn't help but laugh again. Chu Xuan, I thought you forgot about me. Haven't seen you in so many years. How many beatings did I get because of me as a child? How is it possible to forget? I know, brother is the best. Chu Xuan smiled, stepped forward half a step without warning, and threw herself into Chu Xuan's arms. Welcome to England, our Chu genius. Sniffing the faint fragrance of the girl, Chu Xuan suddenly stiffened, and his hands were overwhelmed in midair. Harm, cousin, my family hugged a nervous hammer. Then he gently wrapped his arms around Chu Xuan's weak shoulders and patted them slightly. Well, after more than 10 hours on the plane, I'm already tired of becoming a dog. Let's go. My dad made a lot of delicious food waiting for you. Chu Xuan smiled sweetly and naturally took Chu Xuan's arm. Chu Xuan could only pull up the suitcase with his other hand, and the two went to the parking lot together. From London to Sheffield City, 2.5 hours by University Drive. Chu Xuan has a domestic driver's license, but he is not familiar with England's right-hand drive car, so he can only sit in the co-driver and let Chu Xuan drag race. That's right, this delicate-looking girl is already an old driver. She frantically stepped on the accelerator, jumping repeatedly on the edge of the speed limit of 113 kilometers per hour, constantly overtaking. You slow down. Even Chu Xuan was a little nervous, his hands only grasping the grip on the top of his head, for fear that his sister would go crazy and not know how important it was. By the way, you're in college now, right? Yes, I'm a freshman at the University of Sheffield, majoring in journalism. Oh. Chu Xuan is actually not very good at chatting, the two have not seen each other for more than 10 years, and he does not know what to talk about. After all, his world is only football. Chu Xuan did not feel unfamiliar with Chu Xuan, and seemed to have been paying attention to Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan's song list is playing in the carriage, all of which are old rocks such as AC/DC and Zeppelin. The two were silent for a moment. Chu Xuan asked gently, "Brother, you were injured in the first place. It must hurt." "Harm? It's okay, it doesn't hurt much. Later, I was able to run and jump." His sister was distressed, and Chu Xuan was also very pleased. "Listen to my dad, you've always wanted to play football, haven't you?" "That's right. I don't know what else I can do besides playing." Chu Xuan leaned on the seat and said lightly, "I'm sure you'll be able to return to the professional arena later." Chu Xuan turned her head to look at Chu Xuan, her eyes full of firmness. Just like Chu Xuan's eyes at the beginning. "Hey! Look ahead. Look at the way." "Ooh, I'm watching." Chu Xuan always felt that the old sister drove unreliable, but she did drive fast and steadily. "Do you watch the ball too?" "Of course. I'm a Beckham fan." "Hey, not strange, heartthrobs who don't like it." On the topic of David Beckham, the two began to talk about Manchester United, Real Madrid, and English football culture. In short, the little bit of rustiness at the beginning has long dissipated. Another sister, another fan friend, 2.5 hours of walking is very fast. It's just that Chu Xuan didn't know that when he asked the question at the beginning, Chu Xuan's answer was not Beckham. "I'm your fan, Chu Xuan." The third uncle's home is in a small bungalow outside the city, with 2 floors above and below, and a small courtyard behind, which looks quite warm. After entering the door, the third uncle Chu Jianya and the third aunt had just made dinner and welcomed Chu Xuan with a smile. "Ha ha ha, it's really a big guy, so much taller than me." The bear hug of the third uncle quickly shot Chu Xuan out of the internal injury. "Oh, crappy, quickly, let Xiao Xian wash his hands and eat. I'm hungry." The third aunt is an acute northeastern woman, who looks gentle and virtuous in her 40s. Actual hands-on, can clean up the third uncle, a Sichuan Chongqing big man. In this way, Chu Xuan had a meal with the third uncle and the family who had not seen each other for many years. His guest room has long been cleaned up, and although it is not large, it is clean and tidy. "Brother, then you go to bed early. These days, you take your time slowly, you don't have to work. I have an event at school tomorrow, and they are busy with restaurants. If you're bored, you can walk around the neighborhood, there are plenty of places where you can play football." Before going to bed, Chu Xuan, who was wearing Doraemon pajamas, carefully instructed. "Well, I know, you guys are busy, I can adapt myself. Good night, dude." "Good night." Lying on the small bed, Chu Xuan looked at the ceiling and couldn't help but look forward to a little bit of his new life. Can you really play football here? Episode 5. Early the next morning, the warm sunlight shone in, making Chu Xuan a little stunned. Doesn't it mean that England is rainy? Is there such good sunshine? It may be the effect of sunlight. Chu Xuan got up in a good mood. It seems that the haze in my heart in recent years has gradually dissipated. After washing up, he came downstairs, and the third uncle's family had already gone out. They left breakfast on the table, frying bacon, omelette, tomatoes, and milk oatmeal. Chu Xuan hastily finished eating, changed his shirt, loaded his backpack with sneakers, and went out. In the house, he didn't want to stay longer for a second. Chu Xuan just wanted to play football. Sheffield is a neighborhood with few people, with only a few pedestrians. According to the direction pointed by Chu Xuan walked for a few minutes, and seemed to really hear a noisy movement. Someone is kicking. Chu Xuan's spirit lifted, and his feet sped up a little. Turning around a row of residential houses, suddenly cheerful. A large green field appeared in front of Chu Xuan. According to Chu Qianqi, this is the Sheffield City Community Stadium, and it usually plays football for the surrounding residents. Sometimes, it is also chartered by a League 8 amateur league club as a training ground. It's around 9 a.m., residents don't usually play football, most likely the amateur club is training. The name of the club is very strange and awkward, what is called Stokes Bridge Park Steel Team. I've never heard of it. England's football system is very well developed, and the country is divided into 11 levels of leagues, including regional leagues, as many as 24 levels. This also makes English football have a large population, and almost every young boy can play. Their spare time is also basically related to football, either watching games or playing football. Among them, the familiar Premier League is of course the highest level. Below are the Champions League of the 2nd Division, the 3rd Division A, and the 4th Division B. From the 5th tier of England's non-professional league, it is already a semi-amateur team. At the 8th level, it is the Northern Super League First League, which is a completely amateur team. On the pitch, the amateur team is playing group matches. Not many people train on this amateur team, and many of the players still have jobs on them. The remaining 20 people were divided into 3 teams and played small 7v7 matches. Chu Xuan stood on the sidelines and observed for a moment, smacking his lips boredly. Theoretically, Chu Xuan had experienced a big scene. In the 2005 World Youth Championships, how many future world-class superstars were gathered? Among them, the brightest new star is the golden boy of Argentina, Leo Messi. He has gradually bloomed since then, and will ascend to the top of the world in the future and become the most dazzling existence. In addition to Messi, there are Nigeria's Mikel, Spain's Llorente, Cesc Fabregas, Italy's Pellet, and the Netherlands' Babel. Everyone is about to become famous in the world. In fact, at that World Youth Championship, apart from Messi, there was only one name to compete with. That was Chu Xuan. His performance was unanimously praised by the media of various countries. Several high-level competitions also broadened Chu Xuan's horizons a lot. Unfortunately, 3 years later, Chu Xuan actually stood on the edge of the training ground of England's 8th Division team. The basic skills of these amateur players are not bad, but they lack enough practice and a certain amount of football talent. That's right, the talented have long been signed by the professional echelons at all levels, who will sink in the mud to get by. If he was a completely healthy self, Chu Xuan would not be able to watch this level of competition at all. Chu Xuan originally planned to look for a professional club in Sheffield City. In a few days, go to Sheffield United in the Championship, or Sheffield Wednesday in League 2. What is a Tier 8 amateur league? He starts casually, can easily overtake, and scoring goals is like drinking water. However, now Chu Xuan, the speed advantage is no longer there. Coupled with more than a year of abandonment, the technology under the feet is also a lot unfamiliar. He is also not outstanding in his tactical understanding. So, I'm like an amateur? Chu Xuan helplessly realized the harsh reality. Just as he was thinking about it, a fat old man with a big belly and white sideburns on the sidelines noticed Chu Xuan in a jersey. The fat old man rolled his eyes a few times, made a decision, and then walked straight towards Chu Xuan. "I'm sorry, you've been watching from the sidelines for a long time, do you want to play for a while?" The fat old man squinted, holding a red rosacea, and said lazily. "What?" Chu Xuan's English level is already average, plus the fat old man speaks quickly and has a bit of a Scottish accent. He barely heard a word. The fat old man was helpless, so he had to slow down and say, "You, kick the ball?" This sentence Chu Xuan understood. "Yes, I want to kick." "Very good, after they get off the field, you go up and play forward. We went to work in the factory as shooters." After talking for a long time, the old man saw that Chu Xuan was a little dazed, and repeated, "After a while, you go up, striker." Okay. Chu Xuan was a little excited. After not playing for a long time, he was itchy. Even if the quality of the stadium is average, it is almost a vegetable field. He was still excited. Immediately took out the spikes to change, pressed the legs, and did some warm-up activities. The fat old man hugged his arms, and Yuguan glanced at Chu Xuan. "Hee, this kid is quite professional. I guess which echelon brushed it down." Moments later, a team on the field was replaced. The fat old man hooked his finger at Chu Xuan. "Asian boy. You, play." Chu Xuan looked at the green field in front of him, straightened his jersey, and took a deep breath. Then stepped firmly into the stadium. Episode 6. The moment Chu Xuan stepped into the green field, he heard the system's prompt tone again. And in the upper right corner of the field of view, I saw the corresponding translucent text prompt. Forbidden Zone Fox Prosthetic Eye Module LV.max. Started. Causal Law Shot Module LV.1. Started. 0/5. Ding. Discover the new course Sheffield Community Course and earn 100 Dream Points. Hey! The first 2 pieces of information aside, entering the new stadium can actually earn Dream Points? I don't know what Dream Points can be exchanged for, they must be some good things. Wouldn't it be possible to spin every course and you could brush a lot of points? Chu Xuan had already made a decision, and he would try it everywhere after playing the game. As for those two modules, I don't know how to use them for the time being. And behind the causal law shot, what does 0/5 mean? No matter, play well first. Seeing that the other teammates were ready, Chu Xuan also hurried onto the field. He was on the same team with players who didn't wear vests. Among the 8 people, in addition to the goalkeeper, there are 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 2 forwards. The other players are 5 white and 2 are black guys. Among them, the partner with Chu Xuan is a black man in his 20s, short in stature and full of indifference. Chu Xuan and his teammates looked at each other and nodded, and then the ball was already kicking off on the field. In this level of amateur competition, the fight will not be too fierce, but everyone has a certain level, and the play is quite methodical. Chu Xuan, as a stranger, raised his hand to ask for the ball several times, but his teammates buried their heads and dribbled the ball, and no one passed to him. There is no way, Chu Xuan can only keep running without the ball, looking for opportunities. At his peak, he had absolute possession of the ball and his teammates would pass the ball to him. Chu Xuan's ability to run without the ball is actually average. On the domestic field, he can score goals. But in this amateur court, Chu Xuan still felt a little strenuous. Accelerate the change of direction to get rid of fake action. The opposing defender can actually follow the shadow? To hell, a level 8 amateur player has this level? In fact, it was Chu Xuan who did not play high-level matches for a long time, and his ability to read the game regressed quickly. The more he can't run and clear, the more he won't get the ball, and his teammates won't pass it to him. If this continues, a vicious circle will begin. Chu Xuan can play for a while longer and experience more to regain the feeling of the past. But as long as he is on the field, he wants to win any game. Even if it's just a group confrontation of amateur teams. Just as Chu Xuan was thinking about his strategy, not far in front of him, a faint humanoid phantom suddenly appeared. Foggy grass. To hell? However, others don't seem to see that faint shadow. There are even people passing through the shadows. The pale gray phantom is still there. Even with the movement of football, the position is constantly adjusted. And so on. Chu Xuan had a flash of light. Could it be that this is the Fox of the Forbidden Zone prosthetic eye module? Ghost, in fact, is it a no-ball running tutorial? Chu Xuan is not stupid, on the contrary, he has always been very smart, and he can understand everything at all. So at this moment of seeing the phantom, Chu Xuan did not hesitate. He decisively ran to the position of the phantom. At this moment, the midfielder looked up with the ball and found that everyone else's chances were not very good. And Chu Xuan in front is in the big gap. As long as it passes, Chu Xuan can directly face the goalkeeper to form a shot. The fat old coach on the sidelines lit up his eyes and straightened up slightly. Pass on. As if hearing the coach's voice, the old white midfielder took a shot ahead and directly sent a penetrating straight plug. Here it comes. Chu Xuan just ran to the position of the phantom, looked back, found that his teammate passed the ball, quickly accelerated the start, and ran to the line of the ball. Although his explosive power is incomprehensible, he starts first, the opposing defender reacts half a beat slower, and it is too late to catch up. Chu Xuan had just run 2 steps, but suddenly found that the position of the phantom had moved to the left, not on the passing route. What's going on? In this way, the running position will not receive the ball. Between the electric light and flint, Chu Xuan felt that he believed in the phantom. I don't believe my own gold finger, that's too humble. Everything happened quickly. Chu Xuan just moved according to the running route of the phantom, and the football that was originally close to the ground actually encountered a pit and bounced. Then, the football flew strangely to the left, and happened to be in Chu Xuan's position. The sudden change even deceived another defender who supplemented the defense. Chu Xuan easily received the ball in the penalty area, and no one was watching. The next thing is simple, shoot. Chu Xuan's body instinctively lifted his thighs and hit the ball. But the moment he shot, his heart suddenly clicked. If you haven't played the ball for a long time, the power of this ball may not be enough. The accurate head should be fine. The ball speed is completely enough to cope with the smelly fish and rotten shrimp of the domestic field. I don't know the level of the opposing goalkeeper. In the next second, the opposing goalkeeper had already made a move in advance, and with all his strength, he jumped up. Bang! The goalkeeper can poke the ball out of the line with the tip of his finger. Fall to the ground in embarrassment. Sure enough. Suddenly kicking the ball, the power is still not used to it. The other teammates on the pitch were stunned and applauded for their shots. Chu Xuan's no-ball running and shooting angle are simply amazing. Professional grade level. The fat coach was also very happy, and he applauded thoughtfully, not knowing what he was considering. Chu Xuan was quite regretful. He would love to score on the first touch. At this moment, he inadvertently glimpsed the words in his field of vision. Causal law shot, 1/5. Changed. Episode 7. Causal law shot, 2/5. Sure enough. After Chu Xuan's first shot, the 0/5 beat of the causal law shooting module became 1/5. The teammates found that Chu Xuan's running without the ball was simply elusive, and he could always appear in the most reasonable and threatening gap. So, several teammates also began to pass the ball to Chu Xuan. A second shot followed. Of course, when this ball Chu Xuan ran, the turf under his feet was loose and slippery. His shot missed the right part and was easily blocked by the opposing goalkeeper. However, Chu Xuan was not anxious, but full of confidence. The 3 words of causal law, isn't it a joke? In general, the development of things is an existing cause, and there is a result. And the causal law weapon in the concept of science fiction skips the cause and goes directly to the result. No matter what happens in the middle, no matter what conditions there are, the result is inevitable. As long as the law of cause and effect is used, the National Football World Cup will win the championship. Even if 11 3-year-olds are on the field, the opposing world-class striker may face an empty goal, and he will not be able to score a goal. In the end, the opponent inexplicably withdrew from the game with a muscle strain, and the national football team automatically won 3-0. This is the causal law weapon, which makes absolutely no sense. Of course, the National Football World Cup victory is ridiculous even to think about. As for Chu Xuan's causal law shot, it was much more normal. He is a former professional and a normal striker. Chu Xuan was also looking forward to it. What happens with the 5th shot? Unfortunately, the reality did not go as Chu Xuan wished. He didn't wait for the 5th shot. On the 3rd run to open shot, the ball went in. Chu Xuan was still stunned on the spot, and the old-looking white midfielder rushed over and patted Chu Xuan excitedly. Well done, Oriental. The other teammates also smiled and patted Chu Xuan's shoulder to congratulate him on the goal. In fact, the 3 groups split off by the Stokes Bridge Park Steel team are the strongest in the group of Chu Xuan's opponents. This group of vest-wearing players is basically the central midfielders who usually start. The other 2 groups took turns playing and couldn't play their opponents. Originally, they also had a starting striker in their group, which they could compete with. It's a pity that the starting striker went to work part-time and couldn't train. Chu Xuan's arrival made them envious. Usually looks inconspicuous and does not leak, passing the ball is very general, and the technique under the feet is also very ordinary. But as every time he runs in front of the goal, he is simply at the top level of the profession, making his opponents defenseless. The ball just now, the opposing defender was already very cautious, but he was still a little inattentive and was slipped away by Chu Xuan. Then a kick in front of the goal broke through the goalkeeper's big and small doors. More importantly, after scoring the goal, Chu Xuan stood in place lightly, without the slightest look of excitement. It's as if scoring a goal is just drinking water. Push it up in a moment. My God, what did this Oriental boy come from before? The teammates were secretly speechless. Chu Xuan, on the other hand, is carefully considering the problem of causal law, and in theory, 5/5 will trigger the causal law. Why did the 3rd foot go in? Chu Xuan quickly checked in the interface, wanting to find clues. Finally, with a click on the words causal law shot, a simple introduction appeared. Note, causal shots will gradually increase the chance of scoring a shot. Current causal shot LV.1, initial chance 20%, increased chance by 10% with each shot. I see. In other words, after shooting twice just now, the probability of scoring has reached 40%. It doesn't look like 40% much, but it's actually quite possible to score. For shots on goal is 60%, then the 5th shot suddenly bursts, causality is launched, 100% goal. With a full level of off-ball runs, plus causal shots. Even if he was seriously injured before and was expelled from the professional arena. I'll be back professional. Back to the greenery. Chu Xuan finally felt that he had returned to the World Youth Championship who had ignored everything. The game resumed. Chu Xuan kicked more relaxed and confident, and a faint smile gradually appeared on his face. After the goal, the number of shots was cleared and it was back to 0 out of 5. With his incomprehensible running, Chu Xuan could always get shooting opportunities from various angles and appear in any dangerous gap. 4th shot, score again. After a confrontation match, Chu Xuan completed a hat-trick in the amateur training arena. The informal setting was meaningless, but it brought enough confidence to Chu Xuan. After the training, these temporary teammates, including their opponents, all gave Chu Xuan a thumbs up. Well played. You, awesome. Magical Oriental boy. The fat coach also grinned and came over happily. How, have fun playing? Thank you, very happy. Chu Xuan was also very grateful to this fat old man. This amateur training was very important. You used to be a striker? Yes, played professionally. No wonder. By the way, do you still want to play? I intend to invite you to join our team. The fat coach had already made up his mind to invite this Oriental young man to join. Saying that, the fat coach stuffed Chu Xuan with a business card. Think about it, call me. Okay. After Chu Xuan left, the fat coach thought about it, then took out his mobile phone and dialed the number. Ryan, I found a treasure striker. Don't we have Vardy? You know, Vardy often takes time off. He didn't have more time until 2 months later. Okay, you're the manager, take matters into your own hands. You won't regret it. The fat coach is confident in his vision. Episode 8. Steve Adams, Stokes Bridge Park Steelers, manager. Back at the third uncle's house, they haven't returned yet. Chu Xuan sat alone on the sofa in the living room, carefully reading the business card in his hand. The title above is manager, which literally means manager. In football circles, especially in English football, the word also includes the meaning of head coach. At one time, many professional club managers had a lot of power, buying players and managing their teams completely. For example, Sir Alex Ferguson of Manchester United, Wenger of Arsenal, and so on. Sometimes even club owners, boards of directors, don't interfere too much with the manager's decisions. However, as the commercialization of football has become more sophisticated, the power of the head coach is now in the tactical aspect. Player operations are left to the CEO or the director of football. It seems that this Steve Adams should have the right to decide in the team. As long as you contact him, 80% can enter the team and participate in the amateur league. Or go to professional clubs such as Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday as originally planned and seek trial opportunities? Chu Xuan thought for a moment and immediately dialed. The other party quickly picked up. Hello. Coach Adams, hello, you gave me a business card just now. Oh, it's you, think about it? The other party seemed to be looking forward to it. Can you think about it for a few days? Chu Xuan paused and continued, 1 week. I will definitely get back to you next Monday. Steve Adams is very cheerful. No problem, just think about it. Just fast, in 2 weeks, we're going to register players. Okay. By the way, I forgot to ask your name just now, your name is? Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan. Okay, Chu. Waiting for your good news. Hanging up the phone, Chu Xuan leaned on the sofa and breathed a long sigh of relief. Communicating with each other in English, he has reached his limit. If you play in England, make up for your English. Otherwise, you won't be able to communicate with your teammates. Even if Chu Xuan has not played abroad, he knows very well the importance of communicating with his teammates. Football, after all, is an 11-man sport, not a one-man show. At noon, the third uncle and Chu Xuan both sent text messages, saying that they were busy outside and asked Chu Xuan to get something to eat by himself. Since the goal is a professional game, Chu Xuan intends to demand himself as a professional player from now on. He didn't play for a long time, and his body fat percentage rose a lot. So lunch is just white-boiled chicken breast, white-boiled vegetables, served with low-calorie spiral pasta. It's hard to eat, just be full. Throughout the afternoon, Chu Xuan first went out for a run and exercise, and then turned on the computer at home to make up for English. Most of his high school level English was returned to his teacher. It wasn't until the third uncle's family returned one after another that he ended his studies. You don't eat with us? Chu Xuan was a little confused. Chu Xuan actually made those white-water chicken breasts alone, which looked unpalatable. Isn't the table of dishes stir-fried by my mother fragrant? You guys eat well, I will strictly control my diet from now on. Chu Xuan said with a smile. He and the third uncle and third aunt had explained that the elders were also very supportive of his self-discipline, and simply did not prepare Chu Xuan's meal. Don't affect your brother. Chu Jianye glared at his daughter, but was glared back by her. It seems that only his wife Zhangshi can clean her up. That's right, Chu Xuan. Are you really going to try it out with that amateur team? Is it reliable? Chu Jianye asked with some concern. Chu Xuan's parents persuaded several times to no avail, and there was no way to let Chu Jianye persuade. Chu Jianye's Chinese restaurant opened a branch, which can hire international students to work. Coming to England to help is just an excuse. Let Chu Xuan change the environment and come to distract by the way. Otherwise, Chu Xuan has been in the environment of Shaojiang City, indulging in the pain of the past and playing wild balls everywhere. His heart is gone, and sooner or later it will be completely wasted. Now it seems that Chu Xuan's mental state is not bad. This team is quite strong, I know it. Although the club is in the amateur league, the team owner is quite rich, and the echelons at all levels are perfect. The training ground and playing field are much more professional than other teams. The top scorer seems to be called Vardy, and his strength is not bad. About this amateur club, Chu Xuan blurted out like a humanoid database. Why are you so skilled? Even the third uncle Chu Jianya was surprised. His own daughter even knew about the 8th level league. There's a classmate who is a fan of this team. To be precise, she is a Vardy fan. Then you can let your brother try? If Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday can't get in, it's good in this amateur team. Chu Xuan stopped her chopsticks and nodded affirmatively. Even players from the amateur league will have the opportunity to stand on the top stage in Europe. Chu Xuan smiled faintly. Unexpectedly, this cousin, who had not been seen for many years, knew herself so well. That's what he thought too. Episode 9. I'm sorry, your speed, technique, and tactical literacy are not up to par. Please try other teams. Sorry, Chu. Our trial quota is full, and there are no trial plans for the time being. To be honest, your metrics don't meet the requirements of a manager. Besides, you're 19 years old. We only recruit players under the age of 18. Chu Xuan originally thought that the situation would be bad, but he didn't expect it to be so bad. Sheffield's professional and semi-professional teams have been run by him. Even a small club like Haram FC, which has never even heard of its name, can ruthlessly refuse from above. On the one hand, Chu Xuan's talent on the surface was indeed very average, and he was like a layman when he lost his explosive power. On the other hand, there may also be some arrogance in it. It's not discrimination, but it's not like football in the East. Isn't this funny? What are the great stars in the East? Out of the above psychology, Chu Xuan had no chance to try out at all. Without the game, Chu Xuan's goal-scoring ability could not be played. And so it fell into an endless loop. Fortunately, Chu Xuan's previous inadvertent action gained the last glimmer of hope. Coach Adams, I think. Join the team. Well, actually, we're just an amateur team, and we don't have a lot of training time. You'd better have another job to support yourself. The maximum contract that can be given to you now is £30 a week. How? It's too late to regret now. Stokesbridge Park Steelers office, head coach Steve Adams joked. To be honest, a weekly salary of £30 in football is simply a meal. But the people are amateur teams, and the main sources of income for the players are other main businesses. Playing football is more of a hobby, and a little football dream that has not been completely dashed. From the lowest level of amateur leagues, occasionally 1 or 2 stars will pop up. For example, Vardy, who realized the miracle of the City of Foxes, such as the K-God, close. Presumably players who play in the amateur league hope to one day be able to play in the top league. Steve Adams had seen more of these daydreaming youths, but Chu Xuan gave him a completely different feeling. Others are just dreams. Chu Xuan was convinced. Sure enough, Chu Xuan smiled lightly. No problem, think about it. Subsequently, Chu Xuan signed his name on this amateur contract. Our jerseys are all sponsored by the steel mill, and you will get 2 training kits and 2 home and away uniforms later. I didn't give you a printed number for the time being, make do with it first, and after a while of registration, I will give you a printing number. By the way, what number do you like? Head coach Adams unconsciously said a lot, and then reacted. Chu Xuan's English didn't seem to be very good. This is terrible. The club didn't have the budget to hire an interpreter for him, he had to figure it out himself. If communication is not smooth, it is difficult to form cooperation. Chu Xuan, an opportunistic striker, needs the support of his teammates the most. I need to talk to him when I go back. Adams was pondering, but he didn't expect Chu Xuan to reply. Coach, is there a number 13? Huh? Yes, then arrange the 13th for you. Generally Europeans are more superstitious, thinking that the number 13 is unlucky, and few people choose this number. And Chu Xuan wore the national youth team jersey at the World Youth Championships, and behind him was the number 13. This number has a special meaning for him. It's great that no one occupies it. As for the large amount of English spoken by the coach just now, he actually did not fully understand it. However, these days, in addition to trying out everywhere, he is busy learning English the rest of his time. The English level has improved rapidly, and you can basically guess the general meaning of the coach. This impressed Steve Adams. With this kid's willpower and action, as long as those professional team coaches in the future can find his brilliance, there will be great things in this son. The signing of amateur teams, there is no signing ceremony, as for journalists taking pictures and interviewing or something. How can it be? It was even the only two of them present, and the contract was printed by Coach Adams himself. In addition to these, the Stokes Bridge Park Steelers team is quite good overall. Several office buildings of the club are not grand, but they also look very neat. The training grounds and competition venues are all natural turf, and there is even a dedicated maintenance team. In addition to the training ground of the first team, there is also a separate training ground for the youth team below. At this time, it is the summer vacation, and the training ground is used to hold football interest classes, and many children under the age of 6 play football and play here, which is full of fun. Chu Xuan couldn't help but glance at it a few times. Hey, even 6-year-olds play very methodically, which is worthy of the thriving place of football culture. As for the first team, there is still some time before the start of the league. What Chu Xuan saw before was only the restorative training of some players. After a week, most of the players are back and ready for preseason hit training. Everyone has work during the day, and the training time is usually scheduled at night. The head coach said that when the team concentrates on training, he will introduce the new player, Chu Xuan, to everyone. This night, Chu Xuan lay in bed all night. He can't wait to get on the pitch. Episode 10. Coach, when do we start training? Oh. This week's training has been postponed until next week. Next Tuesday and Thursday, remember to come. Okay. Coach? I'm getting ready to go to the training ground. Chu, I'm very sorry, the time has been changed to tomorrow and Wednesday. Come back tomorrow. Sorry to delay your arrangement. Oh, it's okay, I'll go back tomorrow. Chu Xuan hung up the phone helplessly, a little excited. He was ready for formal training and competition. Even an amateur team can be regarded as opening the road to football. Unfortunately, the factory production in Sheffield City has been heavy recently, and most of the players in the team are working in the factory, and they are too busy to get rid of themselves. Team training times can only be adjusted temporarily. This is the helplessness of amateur teams. His impatient look made Coach Steve Adams feel a little funny. How much do you love football to be so passionate? Since he didn't train on this day, Chu Xuan simply followed his third uncle Chu Jianya to the branch to help. The previous Chu Xuan restaurant old shop was near the university town, and it was originally only opened for international students in Longhua. Later, not only international students liked to eat, but even other foreigners were full of praise. Chu Jianya's Chinese food has not been modified according to local tastes, and it is completely original Sichuan cuisine. Soon, Sichuan restaurants gained a slight popularity in Sheffield and received 5-star recommendations on dining review websites. So the branch is simply opened in the city center. Although the rent is a little more expensive, the customer flow is still quite large. Chu Xuan helped set up the tables, chairs, and benches, and mopped the floor clean with the third aunt. Chefs brought in from Japan also came to work one after another, and by lunchtime, customers were already coming to eat. B2 customers are there. Come, please, the table by the window. With more and more customers, the store has long been full, and even queued. It can be seen that the business of the third uncle's Sichuan restaurant is really good. The employees couldn't be busy, and there was originally another employee who needed to come later, so he could only let Chu Xuan go up first to help call. After more than an hour of busyness, a young man with an angular face and sharp eyes hurried through the door with messy hair. How many gentlemen are dining? Chu Xuan asked. The man was slightly stunned and a little embarrassed. I'm here to work, I'm sorry to be late. It turned out that he was the employee who arrived late. Oh, okay, you go in and change clothes, I'll entertain here first. The young man nodded, walked in quickly, and then quickly changed into work clothes and replaced Chu Xuan. Since he was off work, Chu Xuan simply spoke to the third uncle, ready to go to the community stadium to play wild ball and find the state. Thinking that he would be able to train tomorrow, he suddenly felt a little excited. Wednesday, Stokes Bridge Park Steel Team Training Day. Chu Xuan was the first player to arrive at the training ground. Since the coach and teammates had not yet arrived, he first ran around the stadium for 5 kilometers to warm up, and then took out a football from the warehouse to familiarize himself with the ball feeling. Steve Adams also woke up early that day, reading the newspaper at home and eating breakfast, and then drove to the training ground. The fat old man walked into the stadium with a folder and a tactical board under his arm in one hand while yawning. Hey! How can there be a person? You're here so early? Adams was a little surprised. Coach early. You. Steve Adams stopped talking, just gave a thumbs up and turned to go to the office. A player like Chu Xuan that makes people feel reassuring is simply what every coach dreams of. Think of the other guys in the team, one by one, they are not actively trained, and even sneak around. In the game, he hated his lack of ability and failed to seize the opportunity. Why did you go early? The strength is accumulated bit by hard training on weekdays, and I always fantasize that I can become a superstar without working hard. No wonder I am still working hard in the amateur league. After a few more moments, the players arrived at the club one after another. Some people come by car, walk directly nearby, and some come by bicycle. Everyone used to be factory workers, restaurant waiters, and home appliance salesmen. When you get to the court, everyone is a teammate playing side by side. They were also surprised when they saw Chu Xuan, who was training alone, that someone had come to train themselves so early. It's just an amateur team, do you want to fight like this? These Englishmen do not know the word involution, otherwise they will definitely sigh. Damn, roll up. Finally, the players were assembled. Steve Adams stood in front of the player with a serious expression. This season, we have a new player in the team, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it too. Chu Xuan, say hello. Hello everyone, my name is Chu Xuan, a native of the Dragon Kingdom, playing as a striker on the field. Applause broke out sparsely. Some teammates have played with him and think this Oriental boy is very strong. There were also many people with prejudice and looked at Chu Xuan with scrutinizing eyes. These Chu Xuan noticed it, but he felt that it didn't matter. In addition to the domestic football environment, the stadium in other places is based on strength. As long as you can play better in the game, you train seriously and positively, you will have a chance to play. Chu Xuan thinks that he has the strength to start. At this moment, a voice came from the rear of the team. I'm sorry coach, there was a bit of a delay in work just now, and I was late. I accept the punishment. Steve Adams nodded. Well, do 10 laps on your own, Barty. The man threw down his bag and started running laps without saying a word. Only then did Chu Xuan see the appearance of this young man. The other party also saw Chu Xuan at this time, and both of them looked surprised. Are you? This Barty is the young man who went to work in the third uncle's shop yesterday. Is he the team's top scorer, Barty?